I'm gonna kick this door down.
Biohazard.
Gaming has come a long way since drawn outdoor animations and tank controls, and while we can look back and appreciate how far we've come, there's no denying the ingrained identity of past games leaking into today's. Although I acknowledge the redundancy of that statement, it is no doubt the foundation for any passionate gamer's desire to go back and experience the great, revolutionary, and sometimes even polarizing experiences that either predate the players themselves or flew right past. Personally, I have a challenging relationship with visiting older titles. On the one hand, I want to learn more about the history and modern influences of older titles, and completing these titles just gives me a satisfying sense of vindication. On the other hand, I'm often frustrated by the understandably outdated controls and design. It's a difficult circumstance that I often force upon myself, but one that nonetheless furthers my pride. And as a content creator and a lover of games, I have begrudgingly bestowed upon myself the responsibility of experiencing these monumental titles. So, with a creepy laboratory mansion-sized gap in my gaming experience and the 9th mainline game in the series set to release in just over a month, now felt like a good time to jump into one of the most beloved and recognizable horror franchises in gaming history, starting where it all began, Capcom's 1996 Resident Evil. As I mentioned before, my relationship with visiting older titles can really swing in one of two directions. Thankfully, this is not my first rodeo writing about a game that predates the 21st century. Back in late 2024, I made a video on my YouTube channel about my experience playing the original 1998 Metal Gear Solid for the first time. I mentioned in that video that while I was often thrown off and sometimes even downright frustrated with the tank controls, it never deterred me away from enjoying the overall experience. Now, 2 years later, I put myself in a similar situation. With the current plan of playing through every mainline Resident Evil, I knew I would inevitably have to face the one thing I dread the most again: tank controls. Even as someone who's only slightly tapped into the franchise's modern entries, I, of course, was very familiar with the franchise's roots from various retrospectives, trivia, and similar sources. Tank controls were very much at the forefront of my inner dialogue going into this. And after now having completed the game, I can say that it really wasn't all that much of a problem for me. And don't get me wrong, it never became something that I fully embraced. If there had been a remake in the vein of 2, 3, or 4, I surely would have opted for that over the 2002 HD remaster. However, as frustrating as it can be at times to walk continuously in a straight line or to be hit with an unsuspecting attack from an out-of-sight approaching zombie, I found a sense of charm. I wonder if the idea of a tank control-like game made today could, well, work, if the general public would accept it, albeit with some refined tuning. While I believe today's traditional over-the-shoulder or even first-person view is the way to go, there is a sense of atmosphere the past games such as Resident Evil capture well, especially in horror. Watching as you move your character away from the camera, down a long hallway, falling smaller in frame, and approaching a dark corner creates a sense of mystery and uneasiness. You're always on edge as you prepare for the worst, for the next camera change or corner around it. Perhaps the lack of confidence in being in complete control contributes to the scale and tension of what lies ahead, but nonetheless, the lack of faith in the camera controls is certainly an inspired tool that only reinforces that eerie horror tone the game does so well at delivering. Tank controls aren't the only thing that screams 90s game. The game design is also a contributing factor that makes this game a game of the past. Now, although that word, design, on the surface can seem rather general, I view it as the core of the game, the nucleus, if you will. It's what everything else is created around. Now, I'm certainly no game developer, so I don't know what comes first, the chicken or the egg. But when I think of game design, I see it as a creative process in how the game's rules and system work, what drives you to do or to be able to do something, and the overall player experience. Make no mistake, the thing that makes Resident Evil is not simply T-Virus creatures, it's design. Is it safe to say that Resident Evil, at least the original, is a Metroidvania? I'd like to think that all OG fans of the franchise would agree with me when I say that the core experience of Resident Evil is its puzzle-like design. It's easy to look at a game like this and simply slap it with the overly overly used cliche term survival horror. Sure, the scarcity of ammo, stumbling zombies, and creepy crawlers don't help my case, but I truly believe that if you remove the back and forth puzzle solving, inventory managing design of the game, you simultaneously strip a substantially larger piece of the Resident Evil identity. Remove that, and you just have a husk of a mansion that turns into a target practice. Traversing the strange and twisted corridors, looking for clues and parts, and piecing it all together little by little is the driving force of this experience. At first, from a modern lens, there's a feeling of dread or disappointment as you understand early that there's going to be a lot of retracing. You're going to walk around just about every square inch of this property a lot of times, more than once. You're going to get frustrated knowing that there's something you need to pick up, but you can't because your inventory is full, and the game doesn't let you just drop the damn object out in the open. You are going to sit through a short animation every time you go through a door. Every damn time. And there are many doors. An hour in, I looked over to my girlfriend and I said, this game is going to piss me off. But I kept playing it, and eventually I started to embrace it. Well, everything but the doors, those damn doors. What I didn't realize at the time was the natural desire to put the pieces together was taking shape in the back of my head. In the game, I was walking around, finding objects and ammo and shooting zombies. But in my head, I was doing mental gymnastics as new information flooded in and past mental notes created new revelations. Eureka moments. The game is expertly designed to use context with this meticulously crafted environment to understand the language of what's being asked of you. Overlooking certain areas and missing a key piece of intel can be detrimental to playtime and, consequently, to your mental fortitude. But thankfully, I never found any of the solutions to be overly ambiguous. Vague, possibly, but profoundly intentional. It's the system, this design, that I found to be the game's greatest attribute. Not the eerie atmosphere, not the shooting zombies bit. Had I not set myself on this mission to play all these games, I may have given up in that first hour. But after powering through, I fell into a rhythm. Unfortunately for me, I opted for the Chris route, which, upon researching after completing the game, seems to be the lesser of the two experiences. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but it seems Jill has a pretty interesting story, and as far as Chris's story goes, it kind of just felt like he just happened to be there in those big moments, rather than actually contributing to the outcome, like the Indiana Jones conundrum. Speaking of the story, I find it to be rather enjoyable. I say rather because, as I mentioned, Chris felt like a bystander, controversial as that may be. The voice acting is certainly a low light, and the cinematic moments only start peeling back the layers of this mysterious mansion and corporation towards the end. I found a cathartic feeling in myself when I actually really enjoyed unraveling mystery through the documents found throughout. I passionately hate reading notes or data pads in games. Most of the time, they're not meaningful enough to the overall story or even to the context of the larger story, and they're almost always too long. Worst of all, if they are abundant throughout the game and some actually provide more context, it's all the more frustrating because there's hardly any discernible trait to set them apart, leaving much of the context behind. Resident Evil ensures that every single journal entry or lab report will help fill that what the hell is happening here curiosity. It might just be the best in a game I've ever played. A pharmaceutical company experimenting in the basement of a Midwest mansion and creating various creatures in the world is a story right up my alley, and I can't wait to further unfold in the following entries. As for this one, I cannot believe just how into it I was. I know I went on about how design truly elevates this game, but the undeniable focal point of horror combined with this kind of puzzle game is a pairing as good as chocolate and peanut butter. It's an experience that, if you can get past the tank controls, only 6 inventory slots, and sitting through every damn door animation after door animation, it's one I would recommend to anyone. There's no surprise that after the first Resident Evil, the franchise would go on to remain as one of the most anticipated games 30 years later.